Today is going to be the first day in what I'm hoping will be a 5-part series on something called the IKEA Effect, which is a behavioral economics principle. My basics cursory knowledge of it means that if you build something or you make something yourself, you will love it more or value it more. So I'm going to look into it and then I'll be back to let you know what I found. Okay, so I was trying to find something that grabbed my attention and made me want to look into it more about the IKEA effect, but it was all kind of not, it all seemed like it was a lot of the same stuff and not going to be super interesting. So I just thought to myself, maybe I'll just kind of try and figure out what it is first. What is the IKEA effect? So I came to this article. Why do we place disproportionately high value on things we help to create? And I learned some things. So basically the IKEA effect is how we tend to value things more if we put in effort to make them. So you buy a table from IKEA in a box and then you take it home and you put it together, even though you paid basically the same price you would have paid for another table that was the same quality and already put together. For some reason we pay the same price and we value it more because we put in the effort to actually put the thing together. So apparently some people will do this and then feel like their table is worth, actually physically worth more. So they'll try and sell it online for more than it's worth. They'll be like, oh, other people are selling this table online for $100, but I built mine myself and it's real good. So I'm going to list it for $125. Somewhere in here, it talks about the original study on the IKEA effect, which made me think what was the original one? And apparently people will also overvalue things that other people make based on whether or not it's handmade or not. So, which to me seems like kind of an oversimplification. If you're paying more for artisanal goods or something that was handmade, are you not also trying to support local businesses and buy something that actually has feels like it has character and doesn't feel like it was made in a factory? I don't know. I feel like there are other motivations for buying handmade things, not just that it's higher quality. There are lots of businesses that take advantage of this effect. IKEA for sure does. Also Build-A-Bear. Also some restaurants like salad bars, Korean barbecue, or places where you're doing other stuff, artsy, craftsy stuff, paint your own pottery studios, DIY craft stores. They're all kind of taking advantage of this, you will pay for the experience of building it yourself, which, I don't know, man. I'm skeptical. I'm feeling like this is placing too much emphasis on one part of motivation for people. It feels to me more like a marketing gimmick than less people actually value the thing and more it's a part of the experience or something. I don't know. It's you're paying for the experience, not the value of the thing you're getting. Okay, at this point I was kind of this website is clearly selling something. I don't know what it is they're selling, but it doesn't feel like they are being selfless in writing about this. So I went on a little search for the original article and I found it here. I'm pretty sure this is the OG one. The IKEA effect, when labor leads to love. So in this study, they did 4 different little test things where in the tests, they are assembling IKEA boxes, folding origami, and building sets of Legos. The participants are. They felt like they found that labor leads to liking something more or loving it only when the labor results in successful completion of the task. Because this is kind of already a well understood concept in behavioral economics. It's called effort justification. Effort justification. This paper is kind of hoping to build on why there is effort justification and whether or not effort is still justified if you don't actually complete the task or if it's destroyed after you complete it. So here they use the example of when instant cake mixes were first introduced way back when. They were meant to simplify the life of a housewife so that she didn't have to do as much work. But at first the housewives were no, that's too easy. I'm not going to do that. But then they changed the recipe and added in an egg. And then it was everybody was oh, I have to do a little bit of the work myself? Okay. So that was kind of what started this article, the interest in this topic. So here they at least acknowledge that there might be multiple motivations for people's increased willingness to pay. Although unfortunately that's all they do is acknowledge it. And then they kind of just steamroll ahead with all of their experiments on how people's willingness to pay increases with the labor they put in. Still skeptical even after reading this. So in theory, if you are going to the store and buying something, you should your part, the labor you put in as part of the production cost should result in a reduced willingness to pay. It should make the product less valuable because you had to do part of the labor to put it together, or your labor is worth something, therefore your labor should be deducted from the cost of the finished product, right? But that's not what happens, especially when product customization is allowed. Tailoring things to your specific needs seems to change things a lot for people. So they're exploring, is it effort alone that's enough to drive the price up, or do people have to complete the project for the effect to emerge? It's kind of what they're examining in this article. This is really boring. I might not make a 5-part series on this unless it gets more interesting at some point. So one of the ways that they kind of see this happening, or one of the things they're looking into about like why people do this, is that people's relationships to their job is often like kind of an inverse weird link, where people would rate their jobs as like among the least pleasurable activities that they do. Jobs are not fun, but jobs are also rewarding, which is kind of a funny link. Like the thing you do the most is not fun, but it's also one of the most rewarding. How does that work? Also, like, who are you asking these questions to? Because I feel like a lot of people would not rate their jobs as rewarding. So this is where effort justification comes in. The more effort you put into a pursuit, the more you come to value it. And apparently it's not just humans. Rats and starlings also prefer sources of food which require effort to obtain, which is kind of an interesting little tidbit. So it's not just some weird human quirk. It's like a living thing quirk, which is kind of funny. It feels like a lot of this research on the IKEA effect is just them kind of building on effort justification and kind of verifying like one small part of it, or trying to verify it. So like I said before, completing a task has positive psychological benefits, and failing to complete a task has negative effects, kind of by the same token. But apparently people spend more time thinking about tasks that they failed versus tasks that they succeeded. So failing a task has a stronger negative effect than completing a task, sort of. All right, so finally getting into the experiments. So the first one, they asked them to assemble standard IKEA boxes, and they made sure that they were just like super simple boxes that were like straight out of the IKEA cardboard. Basically, they had one set of participants put together a box, and the other set of participants, they just gave them the box pre-built and just had them look at it. And then after that, they did this weird incentive compatible value elicitation method, where they told them that at the end of the experiment, they would draw a random price from an unknown distribution, and if their willingness to pay, WTP, was equal to above that price, they would pay that amount and take the box. While if their bid was below the price, they would not purchase the box, which is a little bit confusing. And I feel like, I don't know, this like completely, it doesn't take into effect like the person's willingness to like actually take the box, or like the desire to want the box in the first place. So I feel like you're kind of taking the fact that the person will want the box in the first place as a given, which seems like a bad call in this instance. I don't know. Wouldn't you know it? Just as expected, participants were more likely to, I think in this first part, they're only rating the boxes as utilitarian or hedonic, which, yeah, the builders bid significantly more for their own boxes than the non-builders. And then in experiment B, the next part of the experiment, they did basically the same thing, but they asked them to fold sheets of origami. So they could either do a flapping bird, a crane, or a frog. And basically the same thing happened. I mean, pretty much every time they tested, the people, they got the results they were expecting. I don't know, feels a little counterproductive. Like, where are the results for the things that you weren't expecting? I didn't really see any. I didn't get a chance to read the entire paper. I read about like 3/4 of it. And then they did a similar experiment with Legos, where they gave them the option to build some Legos. There were other people who were just handed some Legos and asked to like value it, like how much would they be willing to spend on it. And then they did the weird like drawing a bid out of an unknown box of bid numbers to see if it met the bid that they had placed. I mean, all of the numbers that they're using are like very low. It's not like they're asking them to pay $20. It's like for the IKEA boxes, they asked them to pay $5, and or no more than $5. And for the origami, it was like $1 was the highest bid. They asked them to bid between 0 and 100 cents. And for the Legos, it was, I don't know, I don't see the number, something similar. So it's not like the incentives are not high. So that should kind of help the results a little bit, but I don't know. There was a study done that showed that people, the more time you spend touching something, the more likely you are to feel a sense of ownership for it. And the more likely you are to spend time in proximity to something, the more likely you are to feel ownership of it, which is interesting. So another thing to note is that in this research, they were only using small ticket items. and they were wondering whether or not the IKEA effects would occur for more expensive items. And basically the theory is like, oh yeah, it probably would. Like if you're building a house and you put in a brick walkway that you laid by hand, you're going to feel like that increases the value of the house. I don't know how I feel about this. I feel like a lot of this is not conjecture, just not controlling for enough variables, in my opinion. But that's just me. Anyways, I think that's the end of this video. Hope you had a good time. Hope you had a better time than I did, because that was real boring. See you next time. Peace.